answering questions throughout the chat feature, and we'll also save time at the end of the presentation to answer additional questions. I do want to apologize in advance for any unexpected background noise on my end or Margaret's. We are working remotely. Which S is the right fit for you, an FSA or an HSA? With an FSA, the main difference is it is a use it or lose it account, so the funds do not roll over from year to year. With an FSA, it must be offered by your employer. And the main difference with the HSA from the FSA is the funds do roll over from year to year. The funds are always yours, even if you change employment, retire, change insurance plans. The HSA dollars stay with you, and you can use them tax-free for your eligible medical expenses. And with an HSA, you do not have to have it offered by your employer. You can have it through an employer or what we call an individual HSA account. So what is an HSA account? It's a unique savings account designed to accrue money on a pre-tax basis to pay for qualified medical expenses as they occur, or you can pay out of pocket for those medical expenses and reimburse yourself years later tax-free for those past medical expenses. As long as they occur during the life of the HSA account, your medical expenses never expire. With the HSA, contributions reduce your taxable income, while qualified withdrawals are tax-free, and earnings and interest grow tax-free in the HSA. HSAs can help you start saving and growing your wealth while also focusing on today's healthcare needs. So before I dive into all the benefits of an HSA, I want you to feel comfortable with the way it works. First, an HSA always pairs with that high deductible health plan, also known as an HDHP. So the high deductible is a requirement to open and fund an HSA account. The HSA can be used again for your eligible medical expenses before and after you meet your deductible. And the high deductible plan is the medical, again, that is required to open and fund an HSA. The high deductible medical plan typically covers your preventative health care needs at 100%. However, with the high deductible, you are responsible for paying out of pocket until you meet your deductible. That's why the HSA is that tax-deferred account that allows you to accrue money tax-free to pay for those eligible medical expenses. Let's cover who's eligible to open and fund an HSA. Again, an HSA must be paired with that high deductible health plan, also known as a HDHP. With an HSA, in order to fund it, you cannot be covered by any other health plan, including your spouse's non-high deductible plan. In addition to having additional coverage, you also cannot be covered by Medicare, TRICARE, Indian Health Services. You cannot have received VA benefits in the last 3 months for a non-service related condition, and you cannot be claimed as a tax dependent on any other person's tax return except your spouse's. So long as you meet these criteria, then you are good to open and fund an HSA. Also with an HSA, you cannot have a medical FSA. That's true for your spouse as well. So neither you, the HSA account holder, nor your spouse can have a medical FSA in the same year you fund an HSA. However, with the HSA, you can have a limited purpose and or childcare FSA the year that you fund an HSA. Qualified medical expenses are defined by the IRS publication 969 and 502. Generally anything therapeutic that returns you to a normal state of health. Now here's a list of most commonly used medical expenses out of an HSA. And to get more information on additional eligible expenses, I would encourage you to go to hsabank.com/QME for a full list of eligible expenses. In addition to the medical expenses, you can also pay for vision and dental out of your HSA, as long as they're not purely cosmetic. And then also you can pay for your spouse's and tax dependents' medical expenses out of the HSA, even if they're not covered by your high deductible plan. Their medical expenses are HSA eligible. So saving with the HSA is easy. One of the best parts is funding your account is extremely easy. Anyone can fund your HSA, including yourself, spouse, employer. No matter who funds your HSA, between the multiple sources, you want to stay within the IRS limits. With pre-tax contributions from payroll, you save on state where allowed, federal. You also get an additional savings with the FICA tax, which is a 7.56% savings. Any contributions outside of your employer, we call those post-tax contributions. And you'll save at the end of the year when you file on state where allowed, and federal, you do miss out on the FICA tax savings. And with HSAs, it's easy to schedule that reoccurring contribution, just like you would for your 401k or IRA. You can also, again, make a one-time contribution at any point in time in your HSA to max out your savings. And again, with the HSA, the funds roll over from year to year. They never expire. They always belong to you, even if you change employment, change insurance plans. If you retire, the funds are yours. And another great thing about HSA is any interest, dividends, earnings that are gained in the HSA are gained tax-free and are also deducted tax-free if they're used for those eligible medical expenses. So the limit for 2023, and wow, 2023 is really odd to say. I can't believe we're here already. The limit for family, and family encompasses employee plus child, employee plus spouse, and of course family. You can contribute up to $7,750. For individual and individual coverage, you can contribute up to $3,850. Now, if you are 55 or older, you get to add an extra $1,000 every year you remain HSA eligible. Now, if you have a spouse that is also 55 or older and covered by a high deductible plan, they can open a HSA in their name and also contribute an extra $1,000. So for family coverage, 55 or older, you could contribute up to $9,750 for 2023. And again, with contributions, you want to stay within those limits, and anything coming from your employer is counted to the limit. Any other outside contributions are counted to that limit. So between multiple sources, you do want to stay within those IRS limits.
Stephanie, I just want to mention one item. Just keep this in mind. I just know this from a number of experiences I have with different employers. If your employer has an agreement with some sort of outside source where if you're doing certain activities, there's automatically additional contributions that come into your account, that would count towards the limit as well. So that just keep that in mind. It is from all sources, regardless if it's your employer, your neighbor, yourself, an outside group that monitors your health activity where you get more money. Everything counts towards that annual limit that the IRS has set in place.
Margaret, thank you that's a great point. At HSA Bank, we do have a wellness program. So if we meet certain criteria, then HSA Bank gives us extra money. And again, like Margaret said, that does count to your limit.
Right. I just know this because we've got a lot of people, unfortunately, that have contributed too much, right? And they're busy trying to take out $50 or $100, whatever it happens to be, that they were able to get as benefits. So keep that in mind if that's something that isn't offered by your employer.
Excellent. Thank you again, Margaret.
No problem. Then we just have a couple other quick questions. This is if I retire and get Medicare, will I lose the ability to use the HSA benefit? And I think Stephanie did mention this. you can no longer contribute to your HSA once you are enrolled in Medicare Parts A or B. But that does not stop your ability to continue to use the money in your HSA to cover not only your medical benefits, but if you have a spouse, for them as well. So, again, it doesn't affect any distribution. It affects the ability to make additional contributions. Right, and if you would need to, April, put your question into the chat where you just wrote right now, okay? And then there's one other one here. Assume you and you. Yes, you do have to, if you and your spouse each have HSAs from different employers or even the same employer, you are limited to the IRS family maximum for the year. Nobody can contribute more than that, plus the catch-ups if you are entitled to them. And so, April, if you want to put your question in here, I will answer it as we go along. So sorry about that. All of a sudden, we had a number of those questions come in. So.
Oh, no, thank you, Margaret. Excellent questions. So another way that HSAs can really help you save is you save on taxes in 3 ways. So again, your contributions are tax deductible. With payroll deduction, you save on state where allowed, federal, and of course the FICA tax savings. Those post-tax contributions, like Margaret said, coming from your neighbor, your spouse, you save on state where allowed, federal. You do miss out on the FICA tax savings. And secondly, any earnings, interest, dividends grow tax-free in your HSA. And a great way to maybe capitalize on that is we do offer some investments, and I'll go over the investment program in the next few slides. And lastly, distributions from your HSA are completely tax-free as long as they're used for those qualified medical expenses for the account holder, your spouse, and any tax dependents. With your HSA, you can use your HSA dollars to pay for medical expenses as they occur. You can swipe your HSA debit card while you're at that provider or picking up a prescription. Or pay out of pocket. If you have a credit card where you get points, rack those points up. You can reimburse yourself that same day out of your HSA or hold those receipts and reimburse yourself 20, 30 years down the road completely tax-free. To kind of give you an example of how I utilize my HSA, unfortunately, I'm a very high utilizer of medical. Between my husband and children, we do have a few medical conditions that require lots of doctor's visits and prescriptions. So we utilize our HSA dollars quite a bit. However, for about 5 years now, we do have paid out of pocket for anything under a small dollar amount. So we have a cap. Anything above that cap, we use our HSA dollars for. Anything under the cap, we pay out of pocket for. So we have a shoebox full of receipts that are worth maybe a few $1,000s right now, and we're hoping to build on that to use for retirement. But let's say next year we're not as financially sound. I can go back to those receipts and reimburse myself completely tax-free for those minimum expenses that have added over the last few years. So there's a lot of flexibility with your HSA. And at HSA Bank, we have a few options on how you access your funds. Again, you'll get a debit card. We also have an online bill pay, which is a great resource. Instead of sending with a high deductible insurance, typically you're going to receive a bill in the mail instead of paying the provider at the office. And so instead of sending a check and using a stamp, you can just go online and pay that provider directly from your online account. And we also have a reimbursement option online where you can scan your receipts in and you can save them for later. You can archive them, and then when you're ready to reimburse yourself, you just request for that reimbursement to go directly to your checking or savings account. With HSAs, we do not require documentation for your medical purchases. However, we do recommend that you save them in case you're audited by the IRS. And that's true for any medical expenses paid directly out of your HSA or reimbursement. You just want to keep those documentation. So let's talk about HSAs and retirement ready. You may dream of a retirement spent playing with grandkids, maybe traveling to another country, or just relaxing at home and enjoying that well-deserved time off. However you plan to spend your time in retirement, know that most likely you will have to spend money on healthcare. And unfortunately, this is part of nearly everyone's retirement reality. So let's put this in perspective by looking at an example from HealthView Service Study. Suppose you have $100,000 saved in your 401k, another $100,000 saved in your HSA by the time you retire. Both accounts have been funded with pre-tax dollars and have grown tax-free. With the 401k assuming a 24% tax rate, you would have $76,000 left at max to pay for everyday costs and medical expenses. But with the HSA, thanks to that triple tax advantage, you would have that full $100,000 to pay for medical expenses, allowing you to use your other retirement account for everyday costs. Now, let's say you do have those $100,000 in both your IRA, 401k, or in your HSA when you retire, and you are one of those unique individuals that are completely healthy, have very minimum healthcare expenses, and you have $100,000 in your HSA. Guess what? You have a few options. Of course, medical is always tax-free. Also, at 65, you can use your HSA dollars for non-medical and no longer be penalized. Non-medical at 65 is taxed on your current tax bracket, just like a distribution from your 401k or IRA. And again, with the HSA, you do have the added value that medical is always tax-free for past or current medical expenses. And again, your medical expenses never expire in HSA as long as they occurred during the life of the HSA account. So now I want to summarize some of our practical tips to help you get the greatest benefit from an HSA. 1, each year, contribute as much as you can up to the IRS limit. It's a win-win. The money's yours. It stays with you even if you retire, change employment, change insurance plans. Those dollars are yours and can always be used tax-free for current or past medical expenses that were not previously reimbursed for. Try not to use your HSA for those smaller expenses, or anytime you can, pay out of pocket. Get those credit card points, save your receipts, and reimburse yourself when you're ready to take that deduction tax-free. Schedule reoccurring contributions from payroll. Again, with contributions coming from payroll deduction, you save on state where allowed, federal, but you also get that FICA tax savings. And it's an easy way to really manage your HSA. You can just set it and forget it, just like the money coming out of your check for your retirement accounts. Another neat thing about HSAs is you can change your contribution amount at any point in time. A qualifying event is not required to change the amount that you're contributing. So you could start small and then change it to a larger amount. Again, it's just really easy to manage your HSA contributions. Think of your HSA as a retirement account. Consider maybe investing your funds. Remember, your dividends, interest, earning, they go tax-free in your HSA. So investing could be a really great way to capitalize on that tax-free savings and really build your nest egg for retirement. So let's talk about investing. At HSA Bank, we have multiple funds. We offer Devenir and TD Ameritrade, and we have stocks, bonds, mutual funds. You can choose investments that fit your risk tolerance and anticipated retirement age. And again, we have those through Devenir and TD Ameritrade. To learn more about those investment programs, you can go to our website, which is hsabank.com/investments. I'll also show you where to find that at the end of the presentation. You can invest your funds once you have a minimum balance of $1,000 in cash. HSA Bank does require that minimum in cash. And then after that $1,000, you can invest in either the Devenir or TD Ameritrade. Now, one thing to keep in mind with our investments is our debit card does not recognize your invested dollars. So let's say you have $5,000 in your HSA, $1,000 in cash and the rest invested. You have a upcoming procedure that's going to be $3,000. Now we know you have that balance in your HSA, so you swipe your debit card, it will be declined because it does not recognize the invested dollars. So you could either pay out of pocket, again, use that credit card, get those points, or you can transfer money from the investments to the cash portion of your HSA. It does take us about 3 business days to sell those shares and liquidate them to the cash portion of your HSA. So you would want to move those shares prior to any event where you need to use those funds with your debit card. You can easily move money from the cash to the investment portion at any point in time, or you can have a scheduled sweep from your contributions or from the cash portion to your HSA. And again, with the investments, any interest, dividends, earnings are grown in the account tax-free, and you can use those earnings tax-free for the qualified medical expenses or to reimburse yourself for qualified medical expenses. So investing could be, again, just a really great way to really secure your financial future for retirement. One of the things we really encourage with your HSA is adding a beneficiary. And it's really, really easy to add a beneficiary. You can log into your account online, add your beneficiary. You can add a primary contingent. You can change your beneficiary. But with worst case scenario, you, the account holder, were to pass away and you have listed your spouse as a beneficiary, your spouse can take over the HSA completely tax-free. Any other beneficiary, it would be a taxable event when they withdraw the money, just like a retirement account. And then, again, you can add that beneficiary online, or we also have a paper form if you want to go that route. Margaret, are there any questions?
No, we just did have questions about the beneficiary. Again, so, you know, it's very important to name a beneficiary on the account. And as Stephanie has mentioned, if you leave your funds to a spouse, those funds are left tax-free to that individual. If you're not going to leave them to a spouse and you are married, you do need a notary that your spouse has signed off on that. So we would highly recommend that you leave the money directly to a spouse if you have one for them to use, to list. Again, they'd be able to use the money for themselves. If you still have dependent children that a spouse would be claiming on future tax returns, again, that spouse would be able to use the funds on your children. And then anybody else, it's completely a taxable event if you're leaving it to a friend or a sibling or a parent or anything like that. We do have been having a number of questions about contributions. Again, so let's just go over that again. The contribution limits are set by the IRS. Let's just flip back to that screen. Can you do that, Stephanie?
Absolutely.
Let's go back to that screen and take a look. So, oops, Stephanie, that's not the right screen.
Oh, sorry.
There we go.
There
okay.
Go.
So
Thank you.
The contribution dollar amounts are listed. So if you have a single plan, the most you can contribute this year is $3,850. No matter who has put the money in the account. If you are covering anybody else other than yourself with the high deductible health plan, with the insurance that you're taking, you can make that contribution of $7,750. Then if you're older, if you're 55 plus, regardless if you're taking single or family, you're going to get to put that additional $1,000 in. And as Stephanie mentioned, if you are taking a family plan and the person that you are covering is a spouse that is also 55 or older, they can open their own HSA and make an additional $1,000 catch-up contribution. So that's me, right? I'm 61. I have a husband also in his 60s. I take our benefits, and so through my payroll and through the money that I get from HSA Bank, I will contribute the $77.50 plus the $1,000, so $87.50. Then my husband has a separate account in his name. There's no such thing as a joint HSA. They are always individually owned and run under one person's social security number, sort of like an IRA, right? There's no such thing as a joint IRA, and these accounts have a lot of similarities to IRA. So he will put his $1,000 in. So together we'll have saved that $9,750. Then there's other questions that have come along for reimbursement. Okay, so I don't know if anybody has ever noticed, but when an account is open, HSA immediately funds it with a penny, because the IRS says that an account isn't open unless it is funded. And from that date forward, you can come back and reimburse yourself for medical expenses that occurred. If your HSA opened on January 1st of this year, and you had an accident on the 31st of December or any time prior to that, if this is the first time you're having an HSA, you could not reimburse yourself for that accident on the 31st. It's only from the time the account is open and funded that you can come back and reimburse yourself. So there was a gentleman that had a question about future medical expenses. Yes, that would work for adult children. I'll give you a good example. If your account is open and you're going to, it was open and maybe you paid for braces out of pocket, you could go back and reimburse yourself as long as you have the funds in the account and the braces were put on while during the time that the account is open. All right. How do you obtain a beneficiary form? Well, certainly you can log into your account. We would really recommend doing it online to the extent it's possible. You can also obtain those forms. There it says resources when you are logged into your HSA. Under there, you'll find a beneficiary form. If you can't find it, our telephone number is on the back of every single debit card that we issue, and so you can always call us and get somebody on the line. We're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they would email you a form so that you could fill one out physically if you're interested in doing that. So that's how you would get that. Excellent. Yes, you are. Then you are able to transfer funds from a previous HSA to this HSA. You again would want to you'd want to obtain a form where we would go out and get those funds, or those funds would be sent directly to us. Yes, then you can invest the funds as well. So, again, call us, tell us what you want to do. We'll get you the correct form. And then with regards to fees for investments, Stephanie's going to show you what our two options are in just a moment. Yes, there are certain fees that do apply, and so you'll want to just read and take a look at that. And then is there a way to contribute to the HSA not through a payroll deduction like contributing to? Yes, you do not have to contribute to your HSA through a payroll deduction. You can put after-tax money into an HSA, and then you do have the ability to take it as a tax deduction on the front of your tax return. Again, you are not saving on the FICA, but you can put after-tax dollars into your HSA. You can, what we would advise you to do, probably the easiest, is to link that outside bank account where you're holding money you'd want to put into the HSA. You can link it to your HSA and then simply make the transfer that way. Let me give you an example. That $1,000 that I mentioned that my husband puts into his HSA, we have linked our personal checking account to both his HSA and my HSA. And in his particular case, we have a ACH transfer. So we pull $83.33 out of our personal checking account every single month. and push it into his HSA. If you multiply 8333 by 12 months, you'll get $1,000 or $999.99. So that's what we do. So that's how you can make those contributions. And then the question is, can you use your HSA funds to pay for health insurance premiums that are no longer when no longer employed? So you can use your HSA dollars to pay for COBRA. You can use it to pay for insurance while you're receiving unemployment funds. But you cannot use it to pay for regular insurance premiums. You can use it for long-term care premiums, and you can also use it for Medicare premiums. So that's the only premiums you can use. Stephanie, I have that correct?
You do, absolutely.
All right, so you left your employer, maybe you're working for yourself now, and you went out on the exchange and you purchased insurance. Can you reimburse yourself for those premiums? The answer is no, you cannot. COBRA, yes. Other insurance that you obtained while you're receiving unemployment benefits, yes. Long-term care benefits, yes. And Medicare, yes. But anything else, no. Okay. And like I said, if you're using it for Medicare benefits, would they be taxed? The answer is no. It's that Medicare premiums are considered an eligible medical expense, just like if you were going to take money out for a prescription or anything like that. So, okay, that's where we are right now, Stephanie. So I'm going to let you show us online some other good information.
Absolutely. I want to go back to the contributions real quick. We are in 2023. However, with an HSA, you still, if you haven't maximized the contributions for 2022, you can still fund your HSA for the previous year. You do have up until the tax deadline. So let's say you have family coverage, you contributed $6,000. You can go ahead and contribute the rest of that $7,300. Again, it would be post-tax. You would take the deduction when you file at the end of the year. You would save on state and federal. State were allowed. That amount would, again, reduce your taxable income. So just another little neat thing about the HSA. I'm going to move back to the last page. Sorry, folks. Get there. All right. If you're opening the HSA for the first time this year, watch out for your mail. You're going to receive a welcome kit from us. Now, that welcome kit contains a lot of great information.
Are you guys still?
Oh, sorry. If you're, let me look.
Slow days.
Morgan, would you mind? I'm reading
yeah,
everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So in addition to that welcome kit, you're also going to receive a debit card in the mail. Now, that debit card will arrive in a nondescript envelope and is sometimes mistaken for junk mail. And typically that debit card will arrive about 7 to 10 business days after you've enrolled in the HSA. Now, with all the holidays, it might be delayed a little after that. So just keep an eye on your junk mail. And back to that welcome kit, you'll have information on how to access your online account, and tips on how to make sure that you're getting the best value from the HSA account. Again, with the HSA, one of the criteria to fund the account is that you are covered by that high deductible. If you're not used to a high deductible plan, you are paying out of pocket till you meet your deductible. However, there's great ways to save on your medical expenses with your high deductible. One, you always want to use those in-network providers to make sure you're getting that discounted rate. Your preventative is covered at 100%. And then also there are some programs that are compatible with your high deductible, such as I use GoodRx for my prescriptions instead of running it through my high deductible plan, and typically save anywhere from 80 to 90% on my prescriptions. And if I want to, I can use my HSA dollars to cover that. So just open that welcome kit. Again, you're just going to have a great resource for how to maximize your HSA account. With your account, you'll have access to both our online portal and our mobile app, and both are secure and easy to use. There's a lot of functionality that really can help you manage your HSA. We have some resources for contributions to see where you're at on your year to date, where you can also toggle between past years to see what you've contributed. So if you want to go back to the 2022 to see if you've reached that yearly limit, or if you have room to add more dollars. Like Margaret said earlier, you can also add that external checking or savings account for either contributions or distributions. You can scan your documentation into the HSA, reimburse yourself, or save it for a later time. So I encourage you, if you have not logged into your account, to log into your HSA bank account. And like Margaret said, if you need help accessing your account, you can look at the back of your debit card, and our number is there, and our customer service is open 24/7. So the few takeaways: add that beneficiary. It is so easy to add them online. If you already have a beneficiary, just check to make sure that it's up to date. Again, you can add a primary, contingents, so you want to make sure that you have up-to-date information on your beneficiary. You can do that online, or again, get a paper form and send that in to us. Review the amount you're contributing. Remember, anything contributed, you are saving on state where allowed, federal, FICA with those pre-tax contributions. And those contributions are yours. No matter if you retire, change employment, change insurance plans, those HSA dollars are yours. Consider investing a portion of your HSA. Again, investing could be a great way to grow your nest egg for retirement. Those dividends, earnings, interest, they do grow tax-free in the HSA. And now I'm going to pull up our website where I'll show you where you can find information on investing. Let's see. Margaret, did it switch over?
Yep.
Thank you. So this is the homepage. So if you go to hsabank.com, you can find, we have a lot of resources. If you go to the Learning Center, there's all kinds of information on how to manage your HSA. We have some calculation tools for contributions, or to see what insurance plan might be the most best fit for your particular situation. But to find information on the investments, if you go to members, then HSA self-directed investment options, you'll have information on both the TD Ameritrade and Devenir funds. If you click on Learn More, there's some videos. You can see how to invest. You can see the fund families. These are really well-recognized, well-regarded funds that typically have a high yield, low expense ratio: Vanguard, T. Rowe Price, Dimensional. So I definitely encourage you to come and check out the funds. And again, you can go to view fund performance, see the overview of each of the funds. So just a lot of great information on the website.
Stephanie, can I just get you just to point out lower? That's where you'll find the fees on right there in the sort of shaded gray. So I encourage you, if you wanted to know about what the fees are, I know it's in smaller print, but take a look at that. And then also, just if you'll show quickly on the TD Ameritrade, where the fee information is as well on that second page. So right after you hit Learn More, it's right up at the top there, where it says View a Demo, and then below that commissions and services and fees. So all the information is out there for you with regarding what type of fees would be incurred if you were to start to invest. So these are very economical to get involved in. And again, our debit card has the telephone number on the back. If you get stuck, if you've got some questions, if you're not sure where you can find certain things, if you need forms, if you want to review the rules that you thought you heard us say and you just want to verify it again, give us a call. We're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, you may, because this is the very beginning of the year, you may have to wait more than you would if you would wait a week or so to ask the question. You know, we've got a lot of new account holders for the very first time. There's always a lot of questions. You know, you know, you may have to wait longer than you would a little bit later on, but just so that you can look. And then again, if there's the telephone. You can email us, ask us at hsabank.com. We're here to help you. And we hope that, I don't know if anybody else, there was a question, can you pay for your husband's medical premiums with your HSA? Absolutely, you can do that. And when you contribute after tax dollars to your HSA, HSA Bank provides you with two tax forms. One is a 1099 SA. That takes care of all the distributions from an HSA. And remember, if you haven't made any distributions, we're not going to send you the form, right? And there's another form called a 5498, and that takes care of the contributions. Both the information from the distributions and contributions goes on an IRS form 8889. And there, if you use TurboTax or H&R Block, that 8889 will, you know, match up things either with a W-2 if you've got it, and if you don't, then the form, I guess I call it, it does some mathematical gymnastics, right? It, you know, add this line, subtract that line. That's how the IRS works. But eventually that number will flow to the front of your 1040, where you will then be able to take a deduction for it. That's how that works. So if you have after-tax dollars that you're putting in, the 8889 takes those numbers, like I said, does some gymnastics with it. You know, if you have a number here, don't put it there, and all the things that the IRS requires you to do on a tax return. But eventually that number will make its way to the front of your 1040.
All right.
Are there any other questions that you have?
Well, Margaret and I really appreciate your time this morning. Happy New Year. If you have any additional questions, we do have a few minutes. Please don't hesitate to put them in the chat. We hope this was a value add. If you have additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to our customer service or join another session. We have multiple sessions, so you can join another one or tell your coworkers and have them join as well. Margaret, I'll give it back to you.
Yep, we're not having any other questions come through the chat. Again, you know, if you found this to be very helpful, we'd encourage you, you know, and here's something, if you have a spouse maybe that's managing the household with regards to medical things, you know, this is not just for people that are, you know, got the invitation through their employer, or, you know, if you have a spouse that should be listening to this so they understand it. Again, you know, we do this twice a week, and we encourage people to attend, or like I said, have your spouse attend, or your partner or whomever. All those things can be extremely helpful. Again, the HSA, I think I'll just end this by saying, and Stephanie and I will both say, the HSA is an extremely powerful account if you know the rules and you know how to make the best benefit of it. You know, and so we encourage you to know the rules, learn, and take advantage of this extremely powerful account that is out there for you. So we thank you very much for your time. Go ahead.
Sorry, Margaret. It looks like a few more questions came in. One was, it looks like Eric used his debit card for purchases or items that were not qualified. There's a few ways to handle that. So if you've had medical expenses in the past where you have not reimbursed yourself, you can use those past purchases to cover that current purchase. And if you don't have documentation, typically you can get those documentations. I know a lot of the chain soon pharmacies will have records of all your prescriptions. You can get your EOB explanation of benefits to show medical expenses, or you can get a distribution reversal form from our customer service and replace that amount that was spent on those unqualified medical expenses, or you would just pay taxes and maybe a penalty if you are audited, or if you file and tell the IRS that you use that dollar amount for non-medical and have left it as is. Margaret, would you add anything to that?
No, I mean, I think the easiest thing to do is perhaps, it depends about how much money it is, right? The larger dollar amount you probably want to put back into your account and use that distribution reversal. I'm sorry I didn't see that these additional questions came in. I'm not being able to see them. The upcoming sessions, I would ask your employer for this. The same person that sends you this link should be able to provide you with additional months links. In general, it is Tuesdays and Thursdays 1 week, and then again, this is the off week, so a Wednesday. So they're sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon. So I would advise you to reach out to your employer who gave you this link and ask for future links as well. Is there a way to calculate how much money we'll get back during our taxes for the tax rate? It really depends upon what your personal tax rate is. So that becomes a more difficult challenging, but there is you'll find some of those things online when you log into your account. Yes, what expenses would be covered concerning long-term care? The premiums paid for long-term care expenses. Yes, that's what would be the premiums. By the time you're in long-term care, we're assuming that you're on Medicare and, will be using the account. You'll be exhausting it at that time. So I think that's kind of, unless Stephanie, you can see any more questions, we will go ahead and send this presentation out to you. It'll take a couple days. The system that we use takes a couple days it takes a day or so to generate all the emails, and then we will go ahead and send it out to you for your reference. I think that takes care of it. Again, we thank you very much. Call us if you've got questions. We're here to help, and we hope you use this extremely powerful account to your greatest benefit, not only today, but in the future.
Yes, again, thank you for your time. Happy New Year's. And we, like Margaret said, we will send the presentation out. We'll go ahead and we can send the schedule with that too. It will be a few days, like Margaret said, for us to get the emails for those that attended. And we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.